what energy today. Where did that time fly? I don't know. Anyhow, I was starting to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that Mr. Chip DeFa and Mr. Herb Goldman are fanatical fans, avid fans, as am I, of a man named Joel Spiegelman. His many, many albums, his LPs are classics, they're collectibles. One with Leonard Bernstein, one with the New York Philharmonic. Many albums. He's a respected professor, musician, conductor, arranger, composer, but nothing ever in his background, ever as complicated or as incredible as the awesome sound of the hardware of the instrument called what?
The Kurzweil 250.
Kurzweil 250.
It's a digital sampling keyboard. Has all the instruments, sounds of the orchestra that have been digitally sampled, encapsulated, put into the computer, and I bring it up and it comes out in many, many orchestras, choruses, whatever.
Actual musical instruments and voices made from digitals.
Made from digitizing sound.
And a sample, ladies and gentlemen, of this marvelous new... I read your rave review in Newsday. That was staggering. You must have been proud, right?
I was quite happy with
New Age Bach, the Goldberg variations, Joel Spiegelman, master of the keyboard, and the harpsichord, and now the...
the Kurzweil 250.
And the new one goes a little bit like this, a touch, a sample, a mini. So dreamy and so heavenly, I could play it all night. It's just beyond enchanting. That was based on what, that piece?
That's the aria of a rather large kaleidoscopic work called the Goldberg Variations that Bach wrote for an insomniac count, Count Kaiserling, who was the Russian ambassador to the court of Saxony, and couldn't sleep at night, this count. So he had his young 14-year-old harpsichordist, Goldberg, Johann Goldberg, not the one down the street, but Johann Goldberg, he commissioned Bach to write this work that would entertain the Count, as the story went, during his sleepless escapades.
Will this be popular in Russia, where I know you've done quite a bit of touring?
They tell me yes.
Do your Russian colleagues sort of enjoy the various freedoms that you enjoy as an American? This man spends much time touring Russia with a good friend of mine named Frank Yandolino, by the way. Do your people over there a little bit jealous?
What kind of freedoms? The artistic freedom?
In every department, right.
I can't say in every department.
No.
Now the situation is easing up greatly. I was just there during May and June. There was a big music festival, international festival. There were composers from all over the world and musical ensembles, and certainly it's much different than it was. People are traveling.
Previously repressed or previously forbidden categories of music?
Yes.
Since Gorbachev, since Glasnost?
Absolutely. When I went there 23 years ago, and the composers that I got interested in, the Soviet avant-garde, were writing for the drawer, the so-called underground, are now very well represented. They're published, they're traveling, they're no longer underground.
We could do a whole hour one day, Chip DeFa, on music in Russia, right?
Sure. A lot of people going over there now. They're opening up to jazz more, too, as
jazz
well.
And rock.
Yes,
rock and rock.
amazing.
Rock and rock all over the place. And lots of jazz. And jazz is official. At the Union of Composers, there's a jazz studio.
I know.
And I heard some terrific talents
now
there.
an official East German Dixieland band.
There's some great stuff going on. The Baltic republics down in Armenia, which we're hearing a lot about in the news, and in Georgia, terrific stuff.
But their jazz musicians get assigned by the state. They have to also do like radio music or TV music.
It's
Some don't
becoming
have the
more of
freedom
an-
they have now to do just jazz. that they
Well,
might
it's
have to
becoming
do.
more of an art for itself now. The times are
man-
changing.
That man is music reviewer Chip DeFar for the New York Post. And what's new on your beat, Chip? And don't you feel beat yourself making the rounds of all those
I
nightclubs?
feel terrific. I feel terrific. And I'm glad to be here with these two, especially, I'm going to tell you, I read Herbert Goldman's book in one day. That never happens. And I asked the Philadelphia Inquirer if I could review it. The review's going to run. I've already plugged this book on the radio, and I'm going to plug it in the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Are you going to review Joel Spiegelman's
Well,
album,
he
too?
just gave me that album, so I got to put it on my turntable when I get home.
This man has more fans. Mr. Spiegelman
Yeah.
has more. I mean, when I talk about excitement, you don't know how. I'm sure you know, but what's the real excitement of your life? What's the real thrill? What's
Creating something.
that's it, right?
Really making something, yes.
And teaching at Sarah Lawrence.
I've been teaching at Sarah Lawrence for many, many years. Right now I'm on leave and have been for almost 2 years, actually creating this project. And this project is taking off in interesting ways because we have a number of albums.
Awesome hardware.
It's awesome hardware. I had to get used to the computers, you know. I had to essentially retrain myself. What's a Kurzweil 250? It's a piano keyboard, 88 keys, with a lot of, computer hardware in it. It works like a very complex word processor. It talks to a Mac or it talks to an IBM.
Okay,
And,
now, Joel, you talk about complex. Someday you're going to give a course on a man and a book. The man is named Herbert Goldman. This book took more research. You read it in a day. I read it in 3-4 hours. I happen to be the world's #1 Jolson fanatic. I mean, I mention Jolson on every radio and TV show.
course.
That's my good luck. If I don't mention Jolson once in every show, and Eddie Cantor in every show, and Bing Crosby, I can't work. But Herbert, would you do it again? Would you do this book again?
No, sir. I've grown older and saner over the years, but I'm glad I did it when I did it because I was